So Jon, last time we spoke, you gave me a piece of data that was amazing to me, and that 92% of franchises succeed and stay in business. I think that's remarkable. Today, let's talk about the top 10 franchise opportunities that are happening right now. What's number one on your list, Jon, or do we want to start from the top?
Absolutely. We can have some fun with this, and these are in no order, but really my goal here is to just expose everyone to the types of opportunities out there. We're not going to get into the financials. I'd love to, and sometimes I do if I have more time, but all of them are fairly compelling. And I'll just say this. I'd say the majority of the ones we'll hit on here, you can probably get into for between $150,000 and $300,000 of an all-in investment. When you look at the returns, they can be very, very compelling going through them. So, what we'll do is we'll hit on a few different industries. We'll talk about the types of opportunities that are resonating out here today, and then kind of talk about the 10 that I feel strongest about. The first two that I'll touch on are in the property services space. Those boring, non-sexy, cash flowing type businesses, like we talked about on the last episode. The first one is a business that is in concrete paving. They fix cracks and potholes in parking lots, and they'll do repaving if needed. But you think about a B2B business out there. Every business, any type, has a parking lot, and these have to get updated every so often. This company does all the line striping as well. And so those things can become a recurring revenue type business, B2B, that you oftentimes don't think about. Second one I'd mention, and I may have talked about this one last week because I love this little business. It's a gutter business. Been in business over 20 years. Great founding team. They do some gutter cleaning, but it's mainly gutter installs. And that's a $6 billion industry that's highly fragmented, a lot of mom and pop players. And here you've got a company that has the marketing dialed in. They've got a call center answering the phone. They've got all the technology around the systemization of the business. And they bring a white collar approach to a large blue collar industry. We just placed our 10th client with us this past week. Several of our clients are doctors. We had a Wall Street attorney buy-in. We had existing business owners buy-in. We had corporate executives that were looking for their next thing. And what's interesting is like the doctors and the lawyer. I mean, they're going to keep their day job, but they want to get something going on the side. And that's about 2/3 of our clients. They're looking to get a side hustle going, put a manager in place and manage that manager. It's what we call semi-passive or semi-absentee.
So I think you went exactly where I wanted to go. I've been reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's all about cash flow, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats. And what you're telling me is these opportunities like the concrete, the gutter, if you set it up properly, it could be that cash flow business that doesn't require your hands in it day after day after day, hour after hour. Is that right?
Yeah, and I don't want to sugarcoat it, make it sound easier than it is. I mean, but ultimately, in franchising, you've got that franchisor on the sidelines. Their support team is helping your business. And so if you have a good manager in place, you're coaching that manager, and you'll be a little more hands-on early on. They can go to that franchisor for all their technical questions and their support needs. And so it takes a lot of that burden off of you to be able to keep your day job or keep your existing business and get something going on the side as you build out that investment portfolio.
Well, Sue, it's definitely appealing to me as someone who started this business about 4 years ago, made tons of mistakes, didn't have any infrastructure, didn't have any experience. So that 92% success rate is pretty interesting. Jon, what else do we have on our top 10 list of the best franchise opportunities?
Let's touch on the auto sector. Electric cars get a lot of headlines, but when you look at the oil change industry, there's still a very long road ahead. The average age of cars on the road is 12 years. We've had clients in the past year buying 3 different oil change brands. So sometimes it comes down to availability, and then it's, what's in your market? Where are those good spots that are being underserved? And so, I won't focus on just one here. I'll just touch on all 3 as this is definitely where we put a manager in place. Not one of our clients that bought in had any background in the auto space, but that business owner had on saw the opportunity, said there's a way to go about this, and what's an old stodgy industry that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Number 4, we'll touch on one in the senior care space. There are a lot of senior care providers out there. You think about in-home care providers, and we've got 10,000 people turning 65 every day. We probably have 10,000 turning 70 every day, and more they want to age in place. Coming out of COVID, that was a trend before COVID, actually, but even more so now. And, it's a crowded space. There's a lot of providers out there. They all do pretty much the same thing, a little differentiation. But there's one that we really liked. It was founded by a guy that had built up a 700 location senior care business before. And he said, there's a gutter mousetrap to be had. Took all that knowledge, put it into a business that it's more of a recruiting placement type agency, kind of takes away a lot of the headaches that you have with traditional senior care. So that's when we've had a few clients buy into, again, with varying backgrounds, so they get that business owner hat on and say, hey, people are always going to spend on the things they care about, their kids, their pets, and their aging parents, regardless of the economy. So I'd say those needs-based businesses are really attracting a lot of people.
Especially with at least Americans living longer lives now, right? You live longer. What are you going to do when your body breaks down? You need a place to stay. One of the things that has me kind of curious here, Jon, is previous experience. I'm not a car guy. If you asked me to change the oil on my car, I'd be like, okay, we're going to go to the business to do that. How much experience do I need going into this opportunity? Do I need to have experience with automotive?
You don't. And close to 90% of our clients end up in fields they had no background in and never thought they would be in. And that's kind of fun, is introducing them to these. When I was a franchisor at Shelf Genie, and I had franchise owners all across North America, I really had a chance to see, what was separated our top players from the middle of the pack, maybe versus some of those who weren't doing it as well. And this sounds so cliche to say, but it came down to their willingness to follow the system. So if you go into the franchise and say, hey, I'm open-minded, I'm going to follow the playbook and your coaching and your guidance and what your team says, you're probably going to perform pretty well. And so you've got that going for you. I'd say you also have to be good with people. And that's not just with clients. That's be someone that they want to work for, work hard for it. And so, being willing to make the tough calls. If someone's not the right fit, make that tough call. We have franchisees sometimes that didn't want to let people go when they weren't the right fit. So some of those intangibles that are very transferable across businesses, they definitely play out in franchising as well.
Love that. You're certainly not going to go anywhere far in life without knowing how to motivate people, without making sales. People make decisions based on people they like, right? Cool. So we've hit the first four. I'm very excited to hear the fifth idea. Let's get a quick word from our sponsor in. Yo, are you interested in business ownership? For many entrepreneurs, the journey starts with non-food franchising. Franchising is simply the better option for many entrepreneurs, and demand is at an all-time high. Lucky for you, Jon Ostenson, founder of FranBridge Consulting, is here to help you today. Jon and his FranBridge Consulting team are part of the largest brokerage in the US and are constantly vetting the market thoroughly. FranBridge is hands down the premier source for the best opportunities in the non-food franchising world. They will find the best business for you, your personality, and your location, from healthcare to dumpsters, from youth soccer to oil changes, even insulation and windows. And the best part, it's 100% fee-free, no additional costs to you. You may have heard Jon on Entrepreneurs on Fire. He has served as an Inc. 500 franchisor, a multi-brand franchisee, and in fact, he's one of the top 1% consultants nationwide. Listen, sign up for a free consultation with the CEO, Jon, today, not his assistant, not his sales team. Sign up for free with Jon today at FranBridgeConsulting.com. That's FranBridgeConsulting.com. And guess what? He's even going to send you a copy of his book for free, Non-Food Franchising. For free book. You got to love it. So go to FranBridgeConsulting.com right now. All right, let's get into the episode. All right, Boob, Jon, we're back. Tell me, what's number 5 on your list of the top 10 franchise opportunities?
I just mentioned people spend on the things they care about. What would you spend on, regardless of the economy? It's your aging parents, your kids, your pets, your health, your home. So I think businesses in those kind of spaces will fare well, and those are the ones that are resonating out there, more needs-based. Our next one is a dog training business. Again, you think about dogs, there's boarding, there's house sitting, there's walking, but dog training. And this one just has a great reputation. It's been around for a number of years. We just placed some clients in Virginia last week in this one. And it's, it's a business that you don't need a physical location. It's remote. You hire part-time dog trainers. And again, you're hiring people that care about dogs, and then they train the trainers. And so you don't have to have that background other than an interest in dogs and an interest in making money. Number 6, I'd say is one in the soccer space. We just had some clients in Dallas buy this one 2 weeks ago. Great group behind this. It's a private equity group that invested in all this technology, built out 15 corporate locations. Then they said, let's franchise this model. And, oftentimes you have soccer leagues in local communities. These guys partner with the leagues. And what they do is they provide one-on-one sessions of coaching. They'll provide clinics. They'll do camps. all these things that complement what's currently going on in the world's most popular sport was quickly growing. Oftentimes people want to take it a step further than just the league as these guys come in. And again, they've got great technology, everything from the marketing to the enrollment, to the scheduling, to the invoicing. It's all automated, so you don't have to come in and figure it out yourself.
That's the thing that's scary to me. Like, I own a business, I want to produce more cash flow, positive options, but having to learn all the processes, all the systems, all the marketing, the vision, the mission, all that stuff seems exasperating. So quick question here before we get on to the next on our top 10 list. How much training do I need outside of the franchise model to make sure that I have the right skills? Do you have any way of vetting people before they actually start their franchise opportunity?
Yeah, and there's some businesses that are more sales oriented, and some of our clients will say, "Hey, that's not the right fit for us," or we'll kind of pick up on that. And our whole exploration process is designed. First, it's entirely free to work with us. Which is very funded by the franchise space, but we're helping them think through what are you good at, what do you want that day to day to look like. How much can you invest, how much time can you put into the business, and so through the process, people really wake up to, hey, this actually really does fit me. I think I should move forward, or hey, this isn't going to be the right fit. So I say, from a skill set standpoint, we can always improve in certain skills. But again, depending on how you're looking to run the business, and it may be that it's a sales-oriented business and you don't have a sales background and you don't really want to learn sales, well, then your first key hire could be someone with a great sales background. So you kind of complement your own skills, I think, oftentimes.
Brilliant. So let's get on to the next section. And I do want to, or the next item on the list. I will say concrete paving, gutter business, senior care, dog training. These industries ain't going anywhere. People still love their dogs. People still we love our parents and our grandparents. They ain't going anywhere. The oil change industry is interesting to me, although I can't imagine that being completely phased out anytime in the next decade. So we'll see. What else is on our list, John? What else you got for me?
Yeah, no, and I mentioned the oil change industry in projection more 15 years from now, less than 10% of cars on the road will be electric. Now, a lot will be manufactured, but as far as there are a lot of non-electric cars on the road, and will continue to be used by my wife at New Yukon back in December 2023. It's not electric. We're going to try, I think, for many years going forward. So number 7, I believe we're on. I love this. This is riches in the niches if ever there was an example. It's a business that has temporary walls. So you think about construction sites, oftentimes they put up walls around those construction sites.
Yep.
You think about like in doctors' offices and hospitals that are always undergoing renovations. In hotels, in retail, you always have some little renovation project going on, and they need to block those in, and oftentimes make them, look aesthetically pleasing too, as well as protection and liability for the landlord. So this business sets up the walls, essentially sits back and collects rent checks while they're in use, and then they break them down at the end. So this one's been growing really fast. Again, a B2B business, which a lot of our clients say, hey, we like that idea of having a business customer in the day. But these walls, once they're in use, they pay for themselves in 70 days of rent. So you're building up this inventory of walls, you're deploying them. It's a very clean type business, if you think about it that way. So yeah, we've had clients in Dallas and St. Louis and New Jersey buying into this one. It's really, really doing fire out there.
That is, I'm like, that one gets me jazzed up because, my wife, and there's a ton of construction happening down here in South Florida. And my wife and I are always commiserating that it's taking forever to finish these projects. Now, the flip side would be if you own the temporary wall business, you'd be like, take as long as you want. You're good.
That's right.
And there's no upkeep to that either. You put them in, when the job's done, you take them out, right? I mean, that seems like magic to me.
Absolutely. These walls in this particular franchise system, and they would say they're the only ones out here that do this setup and the takedown as well as the rental piece. Oftentimes you use contractors for that. So you don't have to have a large team. The walls are dust repellent. They can go in this, labs or in other medical facilities. It kind of checks all those boxes. And so it's just little things when you drill down to, hey, we're going to be the choice provider. Oftentimes it's an ongoing, revenue type source. So love that one. For these last 3, Mark, what I'd love to do is touch on a couple of opportunities in what I would call an investor model. So, owner operator, someone who runs a business themselves, semi-absentee, semi-passive, they kind of manage that manager, they tag team with the franchise or manage them. I'd love to see more businesses fall into this last category because a lot of my clients love it. It's called an investor or executive model. And there's probably 4 or 5 companies out there today that offer it. I'm hoping that more will jump on board. Essentially what it is the franchisor will manage the business for the owner. It's the franchisor who knows the business best. And for them, it's just a way of expanding. It's another balance sheet item. So essentially it's corporate run, but it's investor funded, if you think about it that way. And so it's kind of that holy grail that people want. And so our first business in there is a business that operates in the custom orthotics and insole space. They use 3D printing to produce specialized insoles, for everyone from a high school athlete to the guys like myself that have plantar fasciitis or other related cramps and such, to the older population. A lot of Medicare recipients, a lot of diabetics, and it's all technology driven. Anyway, this is a business that has recently introduced, at my request, an investor model because they were already opening corporate locations. They said, you might as well do this on behalf of franchisees. So just a beautiful financial model around the business. Only a couple of employees needed. It is retail based, but it's kind of retail light. It's not a huge investment to get into. I'm in the process of actually purchasing a couple of Florida locations myself in this one, kind of adding to my repertoire. I failed to mention this, but the first one I mentioned today, that concrete paving, line striping, is one that I'm also an investor in. So,
nice.
Love the space personally as well. So anyway, that's the custom orthotics. And then the last 2, kind of going back to property services, there's one in the insulation space that offers that investor model. And this one has been flying. We just had some clients by Tampa, some other clients by just south of Tampa as well. And markets are just getting taken right and left. But it's a spray foam insulation model, which is a $53 billion industry, massive industry, highly fragmented, only a couple of big players on it today. And spray foam is where the insulation industry is moving, in case you didn't know. And so anyway, these guys have a great model. And the last one, kind of that investor model as well, is a pet-related one that's mobile pet grooming, focused in the dog grooming space. So again, recurring revenue. People are outsourcing everything today. The last thing they want to do is take their dog down to to the local shop. They much rather have someone come out to their house that's an expert in the space that does it for them. And this is one where the franchisor was willing to run it on behalf of the investor. You pay them a management fee. It's like 5% of revenue on average. But the math still checks out, and you have all your time. And in those models, you get on a call, maybe 2 calls a month, but usually just 1 call. And the team takes you through the KPIs or key performance indicators and the business, results. And, if there are decisions to be made, then you weigh in on those decisions. But overall, it's turnkey and a very clean way to invest.
Well, my wife and I are, again, talking about this. How can we turn our cash into cash flow, right? The last thing we want is money rotting under our bed while inflation runs out of control. I want my money to work for me. And so this idea of I invest in a business that will run automatically is obviously very exciting. That idea of I'll buy a home, that'll be my greatest asset, has been kind of flipped on its head again in this book I'm reading. I'm trying to wrap my head around this, though. This sounds too good to be true. Like I invest $150K, I buy the business, and then it just recurs for me, right? So like, on the mobile pet grooming, who's hiring the people to actually do the pet grooming, right? Who's managing the insurance or the customer complaints and stuff like that? Because I run a business already, right? I'm trying to spend spring break with my kids at Legoland. I don't want to be called because, my groomer used the wrong shampoo on the dog. Like, how do I avoid that?
Yeah, so ultimately they're managing it. So they've got a manager that's managing, your local market. Let's just say Orlando, they're managing Orlando for you, and they're as they scale up, as the business grows, you're adding additional vehicles. I mean, you're signing for the leases behind those vehicles. I mean, it's still your business end of the day, but you're ultimately, they're the ones that are hiring, firing, making personal decisions along the way. And, I think back, just to work on with Michelle Cheney, we had a handful of corporate markets, I think we had 8 of them. And oftentimes we use those for testing different things when we had a reason for them. But it'd be so easy to just hand those over to a franchisee and say, hey, you essentially fund it. We'll take a management fee on this. And, we're already running the business for you. So it allows a franchisor to expand more rapidly. It allows them to do things the right way. I mean, when I mentioned the idea of Foot Solutions fairly recently, the CEO said, that's a no-brainer. We're already doing this today. We have infrastructure. We can support it. Plus, this is going to get us managing the business the right way. Where sometimes franchisees like to go off the side of the road and how they look at it. So, it's kind of a win-win all the way around. And that's why I'm hoping that more franchisors will jump on board. Those that are in a position to be able to do it on behalf of franchisees. But Mark, I mentioned real fast, that we talked about some in the last episode, but if anyone wants to learn more about these opportunities or engage, it's entirely free to work with us. It's very much like an executive search type model. We work with over 600 different franchise companies. Any given term, there's probably 50 or 60 that we feel are the best of the best. But we're more than happy to share our boat with any of your listeners, and happy to potentially get on a call and start the process.
Yep. And that's at FranBridgeConsulting.com. I'll put a link below to FranBridgeConsulting.com. And, you have me at free book, right? I hop on a free call. I get to learn more about the space, and you'll send me a free book. That is a win-win. That's at FranBridgeConsulting.com. Jon, before we close down here, I do have one more question for you. You mentioned that you've personally been involved in several of these different franchise businesses. What was your biggest surprise? What was a franchise that you bought into and it really surprised you?
Yeah, it's just because I feel like I've been very positive throughout this whole episode. I'll touch on something that was a challenge. I had 2 partners and some were a 3-headed monster, and I don't think we articulated well enough in our operating agreement, kind of what the role of each one was. I thought we had at the time, but in hindsight, our operating manager, one of the 3 partners, was kind of pointing fingers once we're in the fray. And it's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be doing this. No, you're supposed to be doing this. So this falls under your role. And so I think a lot of learnings from that, we ultimately concluded he wasn't the right guy. Some other partner, and I had to get him out of the business, and tons of lessons learned around that. And then my other partner had to step in and run the day-to-day. So, I think getting things set up, being wise in the beginning, especially when you have partnerships, is smart. You just think about every possible situation and what things, do get hairy at some point, who's going to make the decision, who's going to step up and lead in that space. So, wanted to kind of balance out with some positivity here with a real world, things don't always go as planned upward trajectory. Sometimes you have little bumps in the road, and you have to plan for those.
Is that something that FranBridge helps with? Hey, this is the structure we're thinking about. Hey, do you have a way of making sure that you got the right partners working together during that consulting period?
We don't do the vetting of the partners. I mean, that's really on the franchisee to try to figure that piece out. But what we do is provide, feedback from our experience as well as our client's experience to say, hey, in your operating agreement, you'll probably want to have these kind of clauses in there. Here's something to think about. And franchisors going to advise on that too. And their goal is to set you up to be successful. So they're going to help you think through those things. So I'd say it's kind of a tag team approach. We do have some resources if people want to go deeper into some of that we can point them to. We have an ecosystem of partners, not only on the funding side, and then we have a franchise attorney. We have a partner of ours that helps a lot of our clients, but we also have a coach, and we have a recruiter. So we try to bring those resources and experts in the space.
Brilliant. Jon, before we get into the rapid fire section, I have another quick question for you. What is the most underrated franchise opportunity going into 2023 and 24?
Oh, that's a great question. Underrated. So we've got one that I'm pretty excited about that I'm also an investor in. And this one I'm invested at the franchisor level. So I'll almost trying to give a teaser here. But we talked about Shelf Genie, custom pull-out shelving for kitchens and pantries. It's probably a $60 million market, and Shelf Genie does $50 million of that. Well, the awareness of the space needs to be greater. So I think more entrants will be a better thing. There's a company that I'm invested in that's watching as kind of a competitor to Shelf Genie. Again, I think there's plenty of pie to go around. So I don't think it's going to take from Shelf Genie. It's just going to build an awareness. But it's one that, it's based on a very proven model with the founder of Shelf Genie is now leading this other company. And so I think that, as that gets franchised this next year, it's already got successful corporate locations. That's one to watch. That's not really on people's radars yet.
Okay. Sounds cool. I'm going to have to stay in touch with that. And by the way, if you could see my kitchen cabinets, you would see that we definitely need a Shelf Genie because it's a hot mess. It's a mess. My wife will blame me. I'll blame her. But at the end, it's a mess. That's the result. So Jon, rapid fire section here. Listen, y'all, get the free book. Go to FranBridgeConsulting.com. It costs you $0 to start to investigate and look at franchising as in a more serious way of developing revenue, cash flow. That's what it's all about, baby. FranBridgeConsulting.com, link below. Cool. Jon, rapid fire. You ready, baby?
Let's do it.
All right. Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Who you got?
Jordan.
Yeah. Same here.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. If you could take a plane ride with anybody, who would you want to be on a flight with?
Good question. I think former President Bush, just some interesting times that he had to navigate. It was 8 years in office, and you would know more about most things. Yeah, I don't want to get political here, but I just think that was a fascinating period in the nation's history, and I think it'll be really interesting to display.
Brilliant. College, overrated or underrated?
Great question. It's certainly evolving, so it depends on the timing of this episode, right? That's a release. I've always been a very big believer in it myself, and I do see a lot of opportunities, especially some of the businesses we're working where that degree is not required. So I'd say today it's overrated.
Okay. ChatGPT, AI, overrated, underrated?
So if you go out to ChatGPT and type in non-food franchising, the title of our book, you can actually get a poem. I'll share a poem written on it that I found. It's fascinating. I think it's where we're headed. And talking to other business owners, everyone's trying to position themselves. If you're not looking at it for your business, then you're being left behind. So it's I don't know if it's underrated or overrated today. That's where we're moving.
Brilliant. If you had one piece of advice for yourself before you got into the franchise world, what would that one piece of advice be?
I think I've always put a lot of pressure on myself to have things figured out. And, I share this advice with a lot of younger people in their careers is activity breeds activity. And I think not overanalyzing, not sitting there contemplating and pontificating on different options, but rather starting to move in the direction of option A or option B. Very oftentimes when you do, option C comes out of left field. So it's the whole idea that activity breeds activity, doors open when you start to get in motion.
You've heard it from Jon. I agree with it. Start taking action. Activity, baby. Hop on a call with Jon. Learn more about the space and get your free book, Non-Food Franchising. Jon, thanks for joining us, bud.
Enjoy tomorrow. Thank you.